My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I was 35 years old when the man I loved looked me in the eyes and calmly explained why I would never be good enough to become his wife. Not because I wasn't loyal, not because I wasn't kind, not because I didn't love him, but because I couldn't afford the lifestyle he believed he deserved. Looking back now, I realized there had been warnings all along, little comments that sounded harmless at first. He would pause outside luxury dealerships and admire the newest sports cars. Whenever we passed expensive waterfront homes, he'd smile and say, "One day, that's where I'll live." At restaurants, he'd casually point out businessmen wearing watches worth more than most people's yearly salaries. I always assumed they were dreams. Everyone has dreams. I just never realized he expected someone else to finance them. His name was Ethan Brooks. We'd been together for almost a year after meeting through mutual friends at a neighborhood wine tasting. He was 31, worked in corporate sales, earned a respectable income, and carried himself with quiet confidence. I was a regional operations manager for a healthcare company. I earned a comfortable salary, owned my condo, paid my bills, and believed that building a future meant growing together, not waiting for someone to rescue you. Apparently, Ethan had a very different definition. The conversation that destroyed our relationship happened on a Monday evening. I'd picked up Italian takeout on my way to his apartment. Normally we laughed over dinner, argued playfully about movies or planned weekend trips. That night he barely touched his food. He kept scrolling through his phone, his expression strangely distant. Finally, I asked everything okay. He looked up. "We need to talk about where this relationship is going." I smiled. I was hoping we'd have that conversation. So was I. For a second, my heart actually raced with excitement. Maybe he was thinking about engagement. Maybe we were finally planning a future. Instead, he folded his hands together, as if he were about to conduct a business meeting. "I need to know whether you're serious about becoming the kind of wife I need." "I am serious." He nodded slowly. "Good. Then I have to be honest about the lifestyle I deserve." The word "deserved" landed strangely. What kind of lifestyle? Hold on. He disappeared into his bedroom, and returned carrying his laptop. He opened a document. Not notes. Not ideas. A fully formatted spreadsheet. Rows. Categories. Estimated annual costs. Projected upgrades. Future goals. He turned the screen toward me with a proud smile. "I've been refining this for months." I blinked. At first, I honestly thought it was a joke. Then, I started reading. Luxury vehicle. Porsche or Aston Martin. Désigné suite. Premium watches. Golf club membership. Luxury vacations every other week. Private resort stays. 5-star dining several nights every week. Future home valued above $2 million. Personal fitness trainer. Exclusive networking memberships. Everything neatly categorized with projected yearly expenses. I silently added the numbers, then added them again. "Ethan," he waited confidently. "This is a realistic vision." "No." I looked back at him. "It's nearly $300,000 every year." He shrugged. So, if that's the lifestyle I deserve, that's what it costs." I stared at him. "You expect your future wife to provide this?" "I expect my wife to help build it." "Help? Primarily?" For a moment, I couldn't even process the sentence. "You make more than enough to grow your career." "I already have a career, but not the one we need." He leaned forward. "My parents spent 35 years settling." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "My dad stayed in middle management forever. My mom taught elementary school. They accepted ordinary. They lacked ambition." The disappointment in his voice wasn't subtle. I had met his parents. They were warm, generous, supportive. They had worked hard their entire lives. Yet here was their son dismissing everything they'd sacrificed because they hadn't become wealthy. "Ethan." I refused to repeat their mistakes. I looked back at the spreadsheet. "This isn't ambition. It's expectation. It's fantasy." "No." He smiled patiently. "Lots of people live like this. People earning several $1,000,000. So become one." His answer came instantly. "Start a company. Change industries. Work harder. Figure it out." I laughed once, not because anything was funny, because I genuinely couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think becoming a millionaire is just something I can decide over dinner? I think average people always have excuses. The room became painfully quiet. I slowly closed his laptop. Ethan, what? I make a good living. I know. I love what I do. I know. I've worked incredibly hard to build my career. I know. So, why am I suddenly not enough? His expression barely changed. Because you're not wife material. The sentence sliced through me. Not loud, not dramatic, just cold, matter of fact. As long as you're satisfied with an average life. I searched his face, waiting for the smile, waiting for him to admit this had been some bizarre joke. Nothing. He meant every word. So, unless I finance this life, I gently tapped the spreadsheet. I'm not the woman you want. I'm just being honest. I nodded slowly. I appreciate honesty. You should. It saves time. He seemed relieved. I knew you'd understand. I stood. He looked surprised. Where are you going? Home. I thought you'd need a few days to think. Oh. I picked up my purse. I don't need that long. His smile faltered for the first time. I walked to the door. Just before leaving, I looked back. I hope one day you find exactly what you're looking for. I will. I'm sure you believe that. Then, I walked away. The drive home felt strangely peaceful. Not because my heart wasn't breaking. It was. But beneath the heartbreak was clarity. Every strange comment, every subtle criticism, every comparison to richer people, every complaint about ordinary life, they all suddenly fit together. I hadn't lost the man I loved. I'd finally met the man he'd always been. The next morning, I called my older brother, Daniel Mitchell. Daniel was one of the sharpest family attorneys in the state. After I finished telling him everything, there was silence. Then he sighed. Lauren, please tell me you're ending this. I already have. Good. But before it's completely over, you have an idea. I do. His voice immediately became cautious. What are you planning? I want him to see what his dream actually costs. Daniel laughed quietly. I can arrange that. And, I hesitated, I need one more favor. I'm listening. Remember that brutally one-sided prenuptial agreement you once showed me during one of your cases? The one nobody in their right mind would ever sign? Exactly. I want a version with Ethan's name on it. Daniel was quiet for several seconds. Then he chuckled. Little sister, that's beautifully evil. It isn't revenge. No, it's reality. By Wednesday morning, the folder was ready. A complete professional financial analysis, career projections, income calculations, and a prenuptial agreement so aggressively protective that almost anyone would find it insulting. Wednesday afternoon, I sent Ethan a simple message. Can we talk tonight? His reply arrived almost immediately. I've been hoping you'd text. Come over at 7. He thought I'd finally come to my senses. He had no idea what was waiting inside the folder, resting quietly on the passenger seat beside me. At exactly 7 o'clock that evening, I parked outside Ethan's apartment building, with the folder resting neatly on the passenger seat. The drive over had given me plenty of time to think. 24 hours earlier, I would have been arriving with flowers or dessert, hoping we could work through whatever misunderstanding had come between us. Now I was carrying paperwork. Not because I wanted to win. Because I wanted the truth to become impossible to ignore. When Ethan opened the door, he smiled in a way that immediately told me he'd misunderstood my message. I knew you'd come around. His confidence was almost painful to watch. He stepped aside. Come in. The apartment looked exactly the same as always. Soft jazz played from a speaker near the kitchen. 2 wine glasses already sat on the coffee table. He'd assumed we were celebrating. I poured your favorite, he said. I'm fine. He noticed the folder under my arm. What's that? Something I wanted you to see. His smile widened. I knew you were taking this seriously. I am. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. He leaned forward with eager anticipation. So, he folded his hands together. What did you decide? I looked at him quietly. I spent a lot of time thinking about everything you said. I hoped you would. You were right about one thing. His eyes lit up. I deserve honesty. He smiled. I knew you'd understand eventually. I opened the folder. I brought someone else's perspective. He frowned slightly. What do you mean? I handed him the first document. A professional financial analysis. He looked confused but accepted it. What is this? I asked an attorney and a financial consultant to calculate exactly what your dream lifestyle costs. His expression remained relaxed for almost 15 seconds. Then he actually started reading. The smile faded. His eyebrows slowly pulled together. His lips parted ever so slightly. Page 1 contained a detailed breakdown. Luxury vehicle. Designer wardrobe. Private golf membership. Luxury vacations. High-end restaurants. Fitness trainer. Networking clubs. Mortgage estimates. Insurance. Maintenance. Taxes. Everything. Every expense carefully sourced. Every number supported. By the bottom of the page, one total stood alone in bold letters. Estimated annual lifestyle cost $287,400. He stared at it. That can't be right. It is. No. You can verify every number. He flipped to the second page. Projected salary requirements. Household tax estimates. Retirement contribution. Emergency savings. Investment targets. Income needed to comfortably sustain the lifestyle. Approximately $450,000 annually. He looked up. So, his voice had become noticeably quieter. You'd have to work toward that. I nodded slowly. I read that section too. You could. I could also become an astronaut. He frowned. Don't exaggerate. I'm not. I pointed to the report. According to these projections, I'd need to become a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company, or build an extraordinarily successful business. So do it. The words came so naturally that for a second, I almost laughed. You really believe that's how careers work? I believe ambitious people find a way. I already work 50 hours a week. Work 60. I already lead a regional division. Lead a larger one. Ethan, he interrupted. You're focusing on problems. I'm focusing on reality. Reality changes. So do lottery odds. He sighed dramatically. This is exactly why people stay average. I leaned back. No. This is why responsible adults understand math. Silence settled between us. He looked back down at the report. For the first time since we'd met, certainty had disappeared from his face. He wasn't expecting numbers. He'd expected emotion. Emotion was easier to dismiss. Facts were harder. I reached into the folder again, and there's one more document. He accepted it without looking. What now? Open it. He unfolded the pages. Within seconds, his face changed completely. What is this? A prenuptial agreement. He flipped another page. Then another. Then another. His eyes moved faster with every paragraph. Separate property. Separate income. Separate investments. No claim to appreciation. No claim to retirement accounts. No claim to businesses. No claim to future earnings. No spousal support. No reimbursement for lifestyle expenses. No entitlement beyond personally owned assets. He looked at me as if I'd slapped him. This is insulting. Is it? You expect me to sign this? I'd never marry someone asking for nearly $300,000 a year without protecting myself. His jaw tightened. You don't trust me. I held his gaze. You asked me to finance your dream life. I asked for commitment. You asked for luxury. That's not the same thing. You called me not wife material. He looked away. You meant exactly what you said. He folded the papers closed. I would never sign this. I know. You know. That's why I brought it. He blinked. I wanted you to experience what I felt. What? Imagine someone telling you that your love isn't enough. I tapped the prenup. That before marriage you have to prove you aren't after money. You literally measured my value against designer vacations. His face reddened. You're twisting everything. I'm repeating your words. No. Yes. You don't understand what I meant. Then, explain it. He stood up. I wanted security. So did I. He looked genuinely irritated now. I wanted to know we'd have a comfortable future. A comfortable future isn't the same as a luxury fantasy funded by one person. I never said you'd do it alone. I reached across the coffee table and picked up his laptop. The same spreadsheet still sat open. Every category, every price, every expectation. You made this. He said nothing. You spent months refining it. Still nothing. You told me I wasn't wife material because I couldn't promise this. I was frustrated. No. You were honest. He looked down. There's nothing wrong with wanting success. There is something wrong with believing another person owes it to you. His shoulders dropped slightly. You just what? I don't want an ordinary life. I softened my voice. Neither do I. He looked up. But extraordinary relationships aren't built on shopping lists. His eyes drifted toward the spreadsheet again. For the first time, I wondered if part of him actually understood. Then he spoke. You embarrassed me. The hope disappeared instantly. No, I showed you reality. You made me feel like some kind of gold digger. I didn't make you feel anything. I pointed toward the spreadsheet. You did that. He clenched the documents. I was being honest. So was I. I expected support. So did I. You attacked me. I brought numbers. He shook his head. You don't love me. I smiled sadly. I loved you enough to imagine growing old together. I paused. But you loved an imaginary lifestyle more than the woman sitting in front of you. His face hardened again. Leave. I nodded. I planned to. I gathered the empty folder deliberately, leaving both documents on the coffee table. He noticed. You forgot these. No. I think you should keep them. I don't want them. I know. But maybe one day you'll actually read them. He stared at me without speaking. I walked toward the door. Just before opening it, I turned around. I sincerely hope you find someone who can give you everything on that spreadsheet. He didn't answer. I also hope she never asks you for proof that your love is worth $450,000 a year. The door closed quietly behind me. The next morning, my phone vibrated before I'd even finished making coffee. Ethan, you humiliated me. A minute later, that prenup was cruel. Then, another. You treated me like I was after your money. Another. You could have just broken up with me. Then another. Instead, you tried to make me feel ashamed. I didn't reply. There wasn't anything left to say. By lunchtime, there were 7 unread messages. By evening, there were 12. Some angry, some defensive, some strangely apologetic. One even said, maybe we both handled this badly. I set the phone face down. An hour later, my friend Michael called. Lauren. His tone sounded careful. You okay? I will be. I just talked to Ethan. I leaned against the kitchen counter. I figured. He's telling everyone you tried to force him into signing some ridiculous prenup. That's technically true. Michael laughed. I knew there had to be more. There was. I spent nearly half an hour telling him everything. The spreadsheet. The demands. The conversation. The financial report. The prenup. When I finished, he stayed silent. Finally, he said quietly, Lauren. Yeah. You didn't humiliate him. I didn't. You simply held up a mirror. His words stayed with me long after we ended the call. A mirror. That was exactly what the paperwork had been. Nothing more. Nothing less. Later that evening, I called Daniel again. So, he answered, how did Prince Luxury react? I smiled for the first time in days. Exactly the way you'd expect. Daniel laughed. I had a feeling. I think one more conversation is necessary. The financial planner. Yes. I want someone with credentials to explain what I couldn't. You've already found one. He paused. My friend Rebecca is one of the best certified financial planners in the city. Would she actually do this? I'll ask. An hour later, my phone rang again. Good news, Daniel said. Rebecca agreed. When? Saturday morning. I looked out the window into the dark evening. For some reason, I wasn't nervous anymore. I wasn't trying to change Ethan's mind. I simply wanted him to hear reality from someone he couldn't dismiss as an emotional ex-girlfriend. Whether he listened was entirely up to him. Saturday morning arrived, beneath a gray sky that made the city look washed of color. I sat in my car outside Ethan's building at 950, with both hands resting on the steering wheel. Rebecca Hale sat in the passenger seat beside me. She was 42, composed, sharply dressed, and carried the kind of quiet authority that made people sit straighter without knowing why. A slim tablet rested on her lap, so she said, glancing toward the entrance, "Does he know I'm coming?" "No." Rebecca raised one eyebrow. That usually improves honesty. I smiled faintly. "He thinks I asked to talk one last time. And what do you want out of this?" Her question caught me off guard. I want him to understand. Understand what? That I wasn't rejecting him because I lacked ambition. I looked through the windshield. I was rejecting the idea that love should come with an invoice. Rebecca studied me for a moment, and if he still doesn't understand, then I walk away, knowing I tried. At exactly 10:03, Ethan appeared. He wore dark sunglasses, a fitted jacket, and the expensive leather shoes he once admitted had taken him 4 months to pay off. He approached the car with the confident stride of someone expecting an apology. Then he opened the rear passenger door and froze. His eyes shifted from me to Rebecca. "Who is this?" "This is Rebecca Hale." Rebecca turned slightly. "Certified financial planner." Ethan's expression changed. "You brought another person into this. You said I didn't understand your expectations." I looked at him calmly. "So I brought someone who does." He remained standing outside the car. "I'm not doing this." Rebecca gave a polite smile. "That's completely your choice." Ethan looked around. A few people were walking dogs. Someone across the street was unlocking a bicycle. A woman carrying coffee glanced briefly in our direction. His pride made the decision for him. He got into the back seat and shut the door. "This is ridiculous." "Probably," I said. "But it'll only take 15 minutes. Rebecca unlocked her tablet. "Ethan Daniel gave me the lifestyle document you prepared." His face tightened. He had no right. Lauren provided it to him during a legal consultation. Rebecca's tone never changed. "I reviewed each category using conservative estimates. I already saw the report. This is more detailed." "I don't need more detail." Rebecca looked at him through the rearview mirror. "You're asking another human being to restructure her entire life around these numbers. Detail seems appropriate." Ethan leaned back. "Fine," Rebecca began. "Your requested vehicle budget falls between $90,000 and $120,000, depending on the model." I said Porsche or Aston Martin. "Yes. Those are normal cars for successful people. They are luxury vehicles." Rebecca scrolled. "Once we include financing, insurance, taxes, maintenance, and depreciation, the annual cost is approximately $28,000. Ethan shrugged. "Okay. Your clothing, watches, fitness, dining, golf membership, and travel expectations add approximately $186,000 annually." He gave a short laugh. "That sounds inflated." "It isn't." Rebecca turned the tablet toward him. "Your preferred golf club alone requires a $40,000 initiation fee. That's one time." "Correct." "Then why include it annually?" "I didn't." He went quiet. Rebecca continued. "Your housing expectation adds another substantial burden." I said future home. "You specified a home above $2 million. Eventually, with 20% down, the initial payment alone would be approximately $400,000. He looked toward me. "She owns a condo." I felt something inside me turn cold. Rebecca noticed. "A condo she purchased before meeting you." "I know that." "Then why is it relevant?" Ethan folded his arms. "It shows she has assets." Rebecca's eyes sharpened slightly. "Her assets are not a funding source for your preferences." "I never said they were. You just did." The car became silent. He shifted in the seat. "I meant she's financially stable." "She is." Rebecca nodded. "But financial stability is not the same as unlimited capacity." She could earn more. There it was again. Rebecca did not react emotionally. She simply asked, "How much more?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't know. You told her to reach $450,000 annually. If that's what it takes? And what is your own contribution target?" His jaw tightened. "I contribute." "How much?" "I make $68,000. That wasn't my question." Rebecca's voice remained gentle. "How much of the requested lifestyle were you prepared to fund?" He looked out the window. "We'd be married." "Yes. That means shared money. Shared responsibility, too." "I would contribute emotionally." I closed my eyes for 1 second. Rebecca paused. "Emotional contribution does not pay a mortgage." Ethan looked at me. "This is exactly what I meant." "What?" I asked. "You're both reducing everything to money." I stared at him. "You created the spreadsheet. That was about standards." "No." Rebecca's voice was firmer now. "It was about costs." She swiped to another page. "Let's discuss retirement." Ethan rolled his eyes. "I'm 31. Exactly. Retirement is decades away, which is why now matters." Rebecca explained that meeting his lifestyle demands would consume most of my post-tax income. There would be little room for investments, no meaningful emergency fund, no protection against illness, unemployment, or economic downturn. Any major disruption would require debt. Ethan listened with growing irritation. "So we'd adjust if something happened." "Adjust what?" Rebecca asked. "The vacations? Maybe. The car? Possibly. The private club? If necessary. Then they aren't requirements." He stared at her. "They're goals. You told Lauren they determined whether she was wife material." His face reddened. "She told you that?" "She showed me your messages." I turned toward the back seat. "You said it to my face." I was angry. "No, you weren't." My voice came out quieter than expected. "You were calm." He looked away. "That's what hurt most." For the first time, his expression shifted. Not guilt exactly, but discomfort. A crack in the certainty. I continued. "You didn't shout it during a fight. You sat across from me after dinner and explained it like a performance review." "That's not fair." "It's exactly what happened." He rubbed his hands together. "You're acting like I never cared about you." "I think you cared." That surprised him. I swallowed. "But not enough to let me remain who I was." His eyes met mine. "You loved my potential more than my reality." The words hung in the air. Rebecca lowered her tablet. For several seconds, none of us spoke. Then Ethan laughed bitterly. "So this is what this is." He gestured between us. "Some kind of intervention?" "It's a conversation." "No." He reached for the door handle. "It's humiliation." "Ethan, you brought a stranger to lecture me in front of my own building. You got into the car voluntarily. Because people were watching." Rebecca responded calmly. "No one forced you." He opened the door. Before stepping out, he looked at me. "I hope this makes you feel powerful." It didn't. That was the strange part. Watching him unravel gave me no satisfaction. Only exhaustion. "I don't feel powerful," I said. "I feel finished." Something in his face changed. He had expected anger. Maybe even tears. Finality was different. Finality left nothing to fight. He stepped onto the sidewalk. Then he bent slightly to look through the open door. "You'll regret this when you realize how ordinary your life is." I held his gaze. "Ordinary with peace sounds better than extraordinary with you." His expression hardened. He slammed the door and walked toward the building. Rebecca and I watched him disappear through the entrance. For several moments, neither of us moved. Then she exhaled. "Well?" I stared at the closed door. Do people ever change after conversations like that? Sometimes. Rebecca placed the tablet back in her bag. But usually not immediately. "So, that was pointless." "No." She turned toward me. "It showed you something important." "What?" "That even when confronted with facts, he still made his feelings your responsibility." I looked down at my hands. He really thinks I humiliated him. He's humiliated because the numbers exposed him. Rebecca's voice softened. "That isn't the same thing." I leaned back against the headrest. A strange sensation moved through me. Not joy, not victory. Relief. Deep, quiet relief. For the first time since Monday night, I understood that there was nothing left to fix. No missing explanation. No perfect sentence that would make him see me differently. He had heard the truth from me, from Daniel, from Rebecca. And each time he chose the fantasy, Rebecca opened the passenger door, then paused. For what it's worth, Lauren, you didn't lose a future husband. She looked back at me. You escaped becoming someone's financial life support system. After she left, I remained parked for several minutes. The rain had started lightly tapping against the windshield. I thought about the wine glasses waiting on his coffee table Wednesday night. The folder. The spreadsheet. The way he had said wife material as if I were a product that failed inspection. Then, I started the engine. As I pulled away, Ethan's building grew smaller in the rearview mirror. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was leaving something behind. I felt like I was finally returning to myself. 6 weeks passed. Long enough for the initial shock to fade. Long enough for the silence to become comfortable. Long enough for me to realize that peace is much quieter than happiness, but sometimes even more valuable. Ethan blocked me on every social media platform within 3 days of our conversation with Rebecca. Mutual friends filled in the rest. According to them, his version of the story changed depending on who was listening. To some people, I had been controlling. To others, I had tried to manipulate him with legal documents. To a few, I had been intimidated by his ambition. Ironically, almost none of those stories survived very long. Because eventually, someone saw the spreadsheet. I still don't know exactly how it happened. Daniel swore he hadn't intentionally spread it around. I may have shown it anonymously during lunch with another attorney he admitted over the phone one evening. One person recognized the formatting, so it kind of traveled. I laughed. You realize that sounds exactly like something a lawyer would say after accidentally starting a wildfire. He chuckled. Probably. What happened after that? The reactions weren't what I expected. Meaning, I thought people would laugh. They didn't. No. He grew serious. Most of them were disturbed. A few days later, he invited me to lunch. Halfway through the meal, he pulled a folder from his briefcase. I wanted to show you something. Inside were anonymous notes from several people. One woman had written, "Reading that list felt like reading my own expectations from 5 years ago." Another admitted, "I kept measuring every relationship by what someone could provide, instead of who they were." A third simply wrote, "This embarrassed me because I recognized myself." I looked up. They actually admitted that. Daniel nodded. One woman cried, "Why?" She said she lost the best relationship she'd ever had because she confused love with financial security. I stared quietly at the papers. I never wanted to embarrass anyone. I know. He smiled. But sometimes uncomfortable truth helps more than comfortable lies. Life slowly settled into a healthier rhythm. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. Stopped wondering whether Ethan would apologize. Stopped replaying our conversations in my head. Work became enjoyable again. I accepted a leadership development program I'd postponed while trying to accommodate Ethan's schedule. I started hiking on weekends. Visited my parents more often. Read books I'd left untouched for months. Little by little, I remembered the version of myself that had existed before I spent a year trying to prove I was enough for someone who had already decided I wasn't. Then something unexpected happened. About 2 months after the breakup, a coworker named Melissa asked if I'd like to join a group dinner after work. I almost said no, I admitted. "That's exactly why you should come," she replied. I did. That's where I met Andrew Carter. He was 37. A physical therapist. Funny without trying. Confident without showing off. He asked questions because he genuinely wanted answers. When I mentioned my work, he didn't ask how much I earned. He asked what I enjoyed about it. It was such a small difference. But after everything with Ethan, it felt enormous. Our first date lasted 4 hours. The second, nearly 6. By the third, something happened that caught me completely off guard. The server brought the check. Without thinking, I reached for my wallet. Andrew smiled. "I've got this." I smiled back. Then, I've got the next one. He laughed. Deal. No arguments. Why would there be? You don't believe the man should always pay. He looked genuinely confused. I believe we're building something together. He shrugged. Sometimes that's dinner. Sometimes it's listening. Sometimes it's carrying each other through difficult weeks. I couldn't help smiling. What? He asked. Nothing. What? I just realized this is the first relationship conversation I've had in months that doesn't involve a spreadsheet. He laughed so hard people at the neighboring table glanced over. Later that evening, while we walked beside the river, I told him everything. Not every painful detail, but enough. The wish list, the conversations, the financial planner, the prenup. When I finished, Andrew was quiet. Finally, he asked, "Can I ask you something?" Of course. Why did you stay calm? I thought about it. I almost didn't. But I realized arguing with someone who's already decided your value is measured by money never changes anything. So what does? Walking away. He nodded slowly. I like that answer. On our 5th date, I showed him the actual spreadsheet. He read it from beginning to end. Then looked at me. This can't be real. It is. He blinked again. I thought you were exaggerating. I wish I had been. He handed the pages back. You know what's saddest? What? He probably still thinks the relationship ended because you weren't ambitious enough. Isahil. Maybe. Andrew shook his head. No. It ended because he confused wanting more with deserving more. That sentence stayed with me. Months later, I unexpectedly saw Ethan again. It happened in the produce section of a grocery store. I was comparing tomatoes when I heard a familiar voice. I looked up. There he was, standing beside a woman wearing designer clothes from head to toe. She looked exhausted, not physically, emotionally. She held 2 expensive shopping bags while Ethan compared imported olive oils with the same intense concentration he'd once used discussing luxury watches. He looked up. Our eyes met. For one brief second, neither of us moved. He looked surprised, then uncomfortable. The woman beside him noticed me. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, he answered too quickly. Let's go. They walked away. As they disappeared around the corner, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I simply hoped she'd recognize the warning signs sooner than I had. That evening, Andrew asked how my day had gone. I ran into Ethan. He looked concerned. Are you okay? I smiled. I actually am. No mixed feelings. Not anymore. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm glad. So because he was right. I was glad. Not because Ethan had lost me. Because I had finally stopped trying to earn love that should never have required proving my financial value in the first place. Looking back now, I understand something I couldn't see then. The conversation with Rebecca was never really about changing Ethan's mind. It was about changing mine. Until that morning, part of me still believed I could explain enough, love enough, sacrifice enough, become enough. Afterward, I finally accepted the truth. Some people don't want a partner. They want a sponsor. Some people don't build futures together. They recruit someone to finance the future they've already imagined. That's not love. That's negotiation. Real partnership isn't measured by luxury cars, or designer labels, or 5-star vacations. It's measured by mutual respect, shared responsibility, trust, the willingness to stand beside each other when life becomes ordinary. Because life is ordinary most of the time. And that's exactly where real love lives. Ethan wanted a wife who could purchase the lifestyle he believed he deserved. I found someone who simply wanted to build a life beside me. The difference changed everything. If there's one lesson I carried away from all of this, it's remarkably simple. When someone tells you that you're not enough unless you become someone else, believe them. Not because they're right, but because they're showing you that they'll never appreciate who you already are. Walking away wasn't losing. It was the first investment I ever made that guaranteed a lifetime of peace.